In the dark and mysterious worlds crafted by From Software, few figures are as central to the player's journey as the Firekeepers. These confusing, often tragic characters stand at the heart of each and every Souls game, acting as both guides and guardians, offering the power to grow stronger while embodying the themes of sacrifice, rebirth, and fate. But their significance goes far beyond leveling up, as each Firekeeper often holds the key to helping players understand the nature of life, death, and fire in these cursed lands. In this video, we'll dive into the lore and symbolism behind these mystical keepers of the flame, exploring how their role evolves across each installment in the series. Whether blind prophets, eternal guides, or sacrificial lambs, the Firekeepers are far more than just gameplay mechanics. They are the flame that flickers in these dark worlds, always at your side as you tread closer and closer to your goal. Now, let's begin our dive into the role of the Firekeepers. Our journey begins where the flame was first kindled, in Demon Souls. The Maiden in Black is the earliest iteration of the so-called Firekeeper archetype, a mysterious figure bound to the Nexus, guiding the player through their quest to defeat the demons and reclaim the lost souls. Her role is to be channeler of souls, and this introduces a recurring theme in the series, the connection between souls, power, and personal growth. She offers the player the ability to grow stronger, but beneath this lies the heavier weight of her backstory. Once a demon herself, the Maiden in Black was spared by the Old One, and now seeks redemption by aiding the player. Her blindness, an image that will return in later Firekeepers, symbolizes her deep connection to the spiritual realm, showing that she sees the world in ways others cannot. Her ultimate fate is tied to the player's choices, allowing her to seal the Old One and bring an end to the chaos, or forcing her into yet another cycle. The Maiden in Black embodies themes present in most From Software worlds, such as sacrifice, the thin line between good and evil, and the struggle between light and dark. She is the original flame, one that would be reignited in future games to guide players through their next journey. As the Souls series progressed into the first Dark Souls title, the role of Firekeepers evolved, becoming more integral to the lore and the cycle of fire and rebirth. In Dark Souls, Firekeepers are no longer solitary guides like the Maiden in Black. They are guardians of the bonfires, sacred flames that serve as both ways to level up and resurrection points for the undead. Each Firekeeper is tethered to a specific bonfire, and their fates are tied to the flame they protect. One of the earliest Firekeepers you encounter is Anastasia of Astora, the mute Firekeeper of Firelink Shrine. Like many of the Firekeepers in the series, she is cursed, unable to speak, and bound to her bonfire. Her soul is precious, and her death has a direct impact on the game itself. Her bonfire will go cold, leaving you unable to use it to rest or level up until her soul is restored. Anastasia's arc is one of sacrifice and imprisonment, themes that haunt many of the Firekeepers in Dark Souls. She is kept alive, but only as a vessel to maintain the flame. Her own desires and freedom were given up for a greater purpose. Quilag's sister, another Firekeeper, suffers an even darker fate. Hidden deep within Blighttown, she is weak and blind, spending her days in agony as she tends to a hidden bonfire. Her relationship with her sister Quilag, who has transformed into a spider demon, adds a layer of tragedy to her role. Both sisters are victims of their own circumstances, cursed to live in forms far removed from humanity, yet still maintaining their devotion to protecting the flame. This underlines the reoccurring theme of self-sacrifice that each Firekeeper must endure. There is yet another Firekeeper in Dark Souls 1, being the Dark Moon Nidus, who is the Firekeeper of Andor Londo. Unlike most other Firekeepers who are passive figures bound to the flame, the Dark Moon Nidus is somewhat of a guardian, clad in armor and armed with her unwavering faith in her divine duty. As a servant of Gwendolyn, the last deity in the crumbling city of Andor Londo, she not only tends to the bonfire but also protects the legacy of the gods. Her story adds an interesting layer to the lore of the Firekeepers. Rather than being a figure of helplessness or quiet suffering, the Dark Moon Nidus is an active defender, representing both her religion and loyalty to her master. Her purpose is to guard Gwendolyn's secret and ensure that those unworthy do not breach the sanctity of Andor Londo. She fights to preserve the illusion of glory in the city, despite its hollowed-out state, much like her fight to maintain the flame symbolizes a desperate attempt to keep the fading power of the gods alive. Her role highlights how Firekeepers are not just caretakers, but can also be warriors of the flame, defending its significance against possible threats. This duality of protection and servitude further develops the lore of the Firekeepers, showing that some fight not just for the flame, but for the faith that it represents. One of the most symbolic Firekeepers in the franchise is the Emerald Herald in Dark Souls 2. She serves as not just a guardian but also as a guide, helping the player navigate this fragmented and cursed world. The Emerald Herald's task is to assist the bearer of the curse, but like others, her existence is one of sorrow, deeply intertwined with the cycles of light and dark. As you progress, her cryptic dialogue reveals that her role is not just about kindling the bonfires, but about kindling hope itself. Each Firekeeper in Dark Souls is a physical and spiritual representation of the nature of the world, a cycle of death, rebirth, and sacrifice. Their stories are often marked by tragedy, but they also provide players with the strength to continue on with their journey. Without these figures, the fire would fade and the player would certainly fail. In Dark Souls 3, the Firekeeper takes on a more central and complex role, culminating in the final chapter of the Souls series with its themes on light, dark, and the inevitable cycles of destruction and revival. The Firekeeper of Firelink Shrine in Dark Souls 3 acts as the most direct successor to the Maiden in Black, once again guiding the player through the leveling process, but her relationship to the player is more personal and her purpose more profound. In this game, the Firekeeper embodies the tension between fire and dark. She is tasked with helping you, the Ashen One, rekindle the flame or, depending on your choices, bring about its end. Her dialogue often alludes to her own blindness and detachment from the world of the living, yet she can see far more than she lets on, sensing the Ashen One's inner darkness and the weight of their journey. She can even express her willingness to sacrifice herself for the sake of the greater cycle, asking if you would grant her the ability to bring about the Age of Dark, should you gather the eyes of a Firekeeper. Her fate is linked with the player's decisions. Depending on the ending you pursue, she may aid you in extinguishing the flame, ushering in a new Age of Dark, or continuing the endless cycle by kindling the flame once more. Her role is both practical, by helping the player progress, and symbolic through representing the tension between preserving the old world or letting it fall into darkness, paving the way for something new. The Firekeeper in Dark Souls 3 is not just a vessel for the flame, but is active in the choices that define the fate of the world itself, making her one of the most important Firekeepers in the series. These Keepers of the Flame stand as symbols of warmth, comfort, and guidance amidst the brutal and unforgiving worlds around them. The landscapes of these games are bleak, full of decay, and littered with the remnants of fallen kingdoms and shattered souls. Yet, within the bonfire's glow, we find Firekeepers, characters who, despite their mysterious and often tragic backstories, offer a rare sense of hope and solace. They are set apart not just by their role, but by their demeanor. Unlike most NPCs who are either hostile, deceitful, or driven by personal gain, Firekeepers are sincere and selfless. They provide sanctuary, allowing players to level up and prepare for the next challenge. In many ways, they are the closest thing to an emotional anchor in a world designed to break both your spirit and will. Their purpose is tied directly to the bonfires, again as symbolic cycles of rebirth and renewal, embodying themes of perseverance in the face of inevitable doom. The Firekeeper's gentle and unwavering presence contrasts sharply with the cruelty of the world beyond. While the game's world continuously pushes players to the brink, Firekeepers offer a break to the constant danger, reminding the player of the importance of balance, both in gameplay and narrative, where small moments of peace help us endure endless hardship. While Bloodborne and Sekiro may not have literal Firekeepers, they still contain characters who echo the role and function of these mysterious figures. In Bloodborne, the doll takes on this role. She, like the Firekeepers before her, serves as your guide and method for leveling up. The doll is more than just a mechanical tool for progression, as her passive and nurturing nature contrasts with the brutal, violent world of Yharnam, offering a rare sense of peace and reflection. Much like the Firekeepers, her existence is grim, tied to the horrors of the hunt. In Sekiro, the divine child of rejuvenation shares many traits with the Firekeeper archetype. While she doesn't assist with leveling up, she plays a key role in the player's journey, offering guidance and a path to immortality. Her function is ultimately about breaking the cycle of suffering, similar to what the Firekeepers symbolize in the Souls series, but through the lens of the Buddhist-inspired themes of death, rebirth, and spiritual purification that dominate Sekiro. In Elden Ring, while there are no Firekeepers by name, the concept of a guiding figure tied to a mystical force remains central through the character of Melina, the Finger Maidens, and the Two Fingers. Melina in particular serves as your guide in the lands between, performing a role reminiscent of the Firekeepers from previous Souls games. Instead of tending a bonfire, Melina aids the Tarnished by channeling the power of grace, allowing you to grow stronger with each level and guiding you to your next objective. Her character carries the same themes of sacrifice and guidance that we've seen with the Firekeepers. She is bound to the greater will, just as the Firekeepers are bound to the flame, yet she has her own motives and history, as hidden as they may be. Melina seeks to aid you in restoring the Elden Ring, but her journey is deeply personal. Like many Firekeepers before her, she's willing to give up her life to help you achieve your goal, as seen when she sacrifices herself to kindle the flame at the Forge of the Giants. Beyond Melina, the Finger Maidens also echo the role of Firekeepers. They are meant to serve the Tarnished by guiding them towards becoming Elden Lords, yet many are left without purpose as the Tarnished wander the world aimlessly. This connection to a lost role or failed purpose feels familiar, just like the cursed Firekeepers of old, who often found themselves trapped in cycles beyond their control. In the grand scheme of Elden Ring, Melina and the Finger Maidens represent the balance between power and servitude, offering guidance but with the weight of their own sacrifices. Like with the Firekeepers, they stand at the crossroads of our character's destiny, assisting the player in their quest to shape the world's future, all while grappling with their own, often mysterious motivations. As we've seen, from Demon Souls to Elden Ring, the role of Firekeepers and their spiritual successors like Melina transcends simple gameplay mechanics. They are deeply rooted in the world building of From Software's games, standing as symbols of sacrifice, servitude, and the delicate balance of power that each protagonist must navigate. Whether they tend to the bonfires, channel the power of grace, or offer their lives for the greater good, these characters represent the thin line between light and dark, and their guidance shapes the course of each game's story. As we move through each iteration of this series, it's clear that these figures, whether they are Firekeepers or Maidens, offer something essential, a reminder that no journey can be completed alone, and that every flame needs a keeper. Remember, just like in every cycle, even when the flame dims, it never fully fades. Thank you once again for joining me on this dive into the lore and role of Firekeepers across the Souls series. If you enjoyed this exploration of their role and symbolism, feel free to like, and if you want to see more Souls content in the future, feel free to subscribe. With that, I wish you all the best, and until next time.